Chapter 35 of Adapted Night by Elie Wiesel. Because of the holiday, we were supposed to fast and not eat. Should we fast? The question was debated. To fast could mean a more certain, more quick death. In this place, we were always fasting. But there were those who said we should fast because it was dangerous to do so. We needed to show God that even here, locked in hell, we were capable of celebrating Him. I did not fast. First of all, to please my father, who had prohibited me from fasting. And then, there was no longer any reason for me to fast. I no longer accepted God's silence. As I swallowed my soup, I turned that act into an act of rebellion, of protest against Him. And I ate my bread slowly. Deep inside of me, I felt a great void opening. Chapter 36. One day we had just returned from work. As soon as we passed the camp's entrance, we sensed something strange in the air. The evening soup was given quickly, eaten as quickly. We were anxious. I was no longer in the same block as my father. They had transferred me to another, the construction one, where 12 hours a day I moved heavy stones. The head of my new block was a German Jew. That evening he announced to us that from now on no one was allowed to leave the block after dinner. A terrible word began to spread soon after. Selection. We knew what it meant. An SS would examine us. Whenever he found someone extremely weak or sick, he would write down his number, good for the crematorium. After the soup, we gathered together. The veterans told us, "You're lucky to have been brought here so late. Today this is heaven compared to what the camp was 2 years ago. Back then, Buna was hell. No water, no blankets, less soup and bread. At night we slept almost naked and the temperature was 30 below zero. We were collecting corpses by the hundreds every day. Work was very difficult. Today, this is a little heaven. The Nazis back then had orders to kill a certain number of prisoners every day and every week. Selection. A horrible selection. Yes, you are lucky." "Enough! Be quiet," I begged them. "Tell your stories tomorrow or some other day." They started laughing. "Are you scared?" We too were scared. And at the time, for good reason, they said. The old men stayed in their corner, silent, motionless creatures. Some were praying. 1 more hour, then we would know the truth, death or survival. And my father? I first thought of him now. How would he pass selection? He had become so old and weak. "Attention!" There was instant silence. "Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you." For the first time his voice sounded anxious. "In a few moments, selection will take place. You will have to take off all of your clothes, then you will go, one by one, to the SS doctors. I hope you will all pass. But you must try to improve your chances. Before you go into the next room, try to move your arms around and give your face some color. Don't walk slowly. Run. Run as if you had the devil behind you. Don't look at the SS. Run straight in front of you." He paused and then added, "And most important, don't be afraid." That was a piece of advice we could not follow. I undressed, leaving my clothes on my cot. Tonight there was no danger that they would be stolen. Tibby and Yossi came to tell me, "Let's stay together, it'll make us stronger." "They are coming!" 3 SS officers surrounded the terrible Dr. Mengele, the very same who we saw in Birkenau. Ready? Yes, we were ready. So were the SS doctors. Dr. Mengele was holding a list, our numbers. The first to go were the most important Jews, all of whom were in perfect physical condition, of course. Then came the regular prisoners' turns. Dr. Mengele looked at them from head to toe. From time to time he wrote a number. I had only one thought, not to have my number written down. In front of me there were only Tibby and Yossi. They passed. I had time to notice that Dr. Mengele had not written down their numbers. Someone pushed me. It was my turn. I ran without looking back. My head was spinning. "You are too skinny, you are too weak, you are too skinny, you are good for the crematorium." I felt as though I had been running for years. "You are too skinny, you are too weak." At last I arrived, exhausted. When I had caught my breath, I asked Yossi and Tibby, "Did they write me down?" "No," said Yossi. Smiling, he added, "Anyway, they couldn't have. You were running too fast." I began to laugh. I was happy. I felt like kissing him. At that moment the others did not matter. They had not written down my number. I could live a little longer. Those whose numbers had been written down were standing away from us, alone to the whole world. Some were silently crying. I saw my father running in my direction. Suddenly I was afraid. What is happening? He couldn't breathe, hardly able to open his mouth. The Nazis had written down his number without his noticing. "What are we going to do?" I said nervously. But my father explained. "Today they will do another selection. In this selection I am almost certain they will choose me." I said nothing. He felt that time was running out. He was speaking quickly. He wanted to tell me so many things. His speech became confused. He knew that I had to leave in a few moments. He was going to remain alone, so alone. "Here, take this knife," he said. "I don't need it anymore. You may find it useful. Also take this spoon. Don't sell it. Quickly, go ahead, take what I'm giving you." My inheritance. "Don't talk like that, father." I was about to start crying. "I don't want you to say these things. Keep the spoon and knife. You will need them as much as I. We'll see each other tonight after work." He looked at me with his tired eyes covered up by despair. He insisted. "I am asking you, take it. Do as I ask you, my son. Time is running out. Do as your father asks you." But my father lived. They did not choose his number. We could stay together a bit longer. I felt a great sense of relief. Chapter 37. Winter had arrived. The days became short and the nights almost intolerable. We were given winter clothing, striped shirts that were a bit warmer. The men that had been at the camp for a long time took the opportunity to make fun of us. "Now you'll really get a taste of the camp." We went to work as usual, our bodies frozen. The stones were so cold that touching them, we felt that our hands would get stuck. But we got used to that too. On Christmas and New Year's we did not work. We were given a soup that was a little better than usual. Around the middle of January, my right foot began to swell from the cold. I could not stand on it. I was injured. I went to the infirmary. The doctor, a great Jewish doctor, a prisoner like me, told me, "You must have an operation on your foot. If we don't have the operation, then the toes and perhaps the leg will have to be amputated." I couldn't imagine an operation when I was already hungry, tired, and beaten. But I had no choice. They put me in a bed with white sheets. I had forgotten that people slept in sheets. Actually, being in the infirmary was not bad at all. We ate good bread, a thicker soup, no more work. From time to time I was able to send a piece of bread to my father. Next to me was a Jew suffering from a sickness. His body was only skin and bones. His eyes were dead. I could hear his voice. The only way I knew that he was alive. Where did he get the strength to speak? "Don't rejoice too soon, son. Here, too, there is selection. Germany has no need for sick Jews. Germany has no need for me. Listen to me. Leave the infirmary before the next selection." These words, coming from a man that was almost dead, filled me with terror. But I thought that perhaps my neighbor, afraid of being chosen to be killed in the selection, simply wanted to be done with me, to free my bed, to give himself a chance to survive. Perhaps he only wanted to scare me. But then again, what if he was telling the truth? I decided to wait and see. Chapter 38. The doctor came to tell me that he would operate the next day. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Everything will be all right." At 10 o'clock in the morning, I was taken to the operating room. My doctor was there. That revived me. I felt that in his presence nothing serious could happen to me. "It will hurt a little," he said, "but it will pass. Be brave." The operation lasted 1 hour. They did not put me to sleep or give me any medicine for the pain. I did not take my eyes off the doctor. After it was over, I saw my doctor's face above me. "Everything went well. You are brave, my boy. Next, you'll stay here 2 weeks for some rest, and that will be it. You'll eat well, you'll relax." I barely understood what he was telling me, but his voice revived me. Suddenly, I broke into a cold sweat. I couldn't feel my leg. Had they amputated it? "Doctor!" I screamed. "Doctor!" "What is it, Eliezer?" "Will I be able to use my leg?" He stopped smiling. I became terrified. He said, "In 2 weeks you'll be fully recovered. You'll be able to walk. The bottom of your foot was full of liquid. Your leg was not amputated. You'll see. In 2 weeks you'll be walking around like everybody else." All I had to do was wait 2 weeks. Chapter 39. But 2 days after my operation, we heard rumors that the Red Army was getting closer. The Red Army was racing toward Buna. We thought it only a little time the Nazis would be attacked and we would be free. But it was only a rumor. We were accustomed to this kind of rumor. It wasn't the first time that lies had promised us of peace and freedom, and often we would believe them. Only this time these rumors seemed like they could be true. During the last few nights we had heard shots in the distance. Someone said, "Don't be stupid. Hitler has made it clear that he will kill all the Jews before the Red Army gets to him." I erupted. I was so angry. "What do you care what Hitler says? Would you want us to consider him a leader?" His cold eyes stared at me. At last he said, "I have more belief in Hitler than in anyone else. He alone has kept his promises, all his promises to the Jewish people. He promised that he would kill us all."